Welcome to another installment of Turn Up the AC Hot Takes with Reason on a solo edition. Undisputed super middleweight champion Saul Canelo Alvarez recently had successful surgery on his left wrist following his one-sided unanimous decision over Gennady Golovkin back in September to retain his undisputed status and close the book on a trilogy with Triple G, where he officially ended the trilogy with a record of 2-0-1. With a lot of people believing that he lost the first fight, and some even suggesting that Canelo lost the second fight as well. Canelo now holds a record of 58 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws, with 39 wins by way of knockout. But he only has so many potential fights out there that boxing fans will accept for him to take next. He already received quite a lot of backlash for the third fight with Triple G, foregoing the opportunity to immediately rematch Dimitri Bivol, despite publicly stating that he believed that he won the first fight with Bivol. But any unbiased fan who watched the fight with Bivol knows that the undefeated light heavyweight champ won that fight decisively. I had the fight 118-110, and the very closest it could have been, in my opinion, was 117-111. Now, as I mentioned, there is a very short list of fights that are out there for Canelo to take next. With rumors circulating that Canelo will be back Cinco de Mayo weekend, that would leave the winner of Plant versus Benavidez on a short turnaround, depending on when their fight happens in early 2023. If their fight were to happen in January, potentially the winner could take the Canelo fight in May, but most likely it looks like their fight could take place in March, leaving a May bout out of the question. But potentially a showdown in September can be the logical time for that fight to take place. Recently, at the WBC press conference, WBC President Mauricio Solomon has stated that the fight between Plant and Benavidez is a final eliminator for the number one contender for Canelo Alvarez at 168. Plant recently fought Canelo just about a year ago and was stopped in the 11th round. And truthfully, if they would have announced this before the Durrell fight, I would have had no interest in seeing Plant fight Canelo again, because I believe it would be the same result. But Plant looked really good in the fight against Durrell, and I thought that was probably the best Plant that I've seen in recent memory. Now, David Benavidez, to me, that's the fight that Canelo needs to take very, very soon. So hopefully Benavidez or Plant, the winner, can get the Canelo fight in September. Now, there's another fighter out there, a young up-and-comer, David Morrell Jr. He looked very impressive versus Yerbo's Nali with a 12th round KO victory. Now, I'm going to say Yerbo when I'm referring to that fighter because I don't want to butcher his name every single time I say it. So, prayers go out to Yerbo and his family. He was placed in a medically induced coma following his loss to Morrell. David Morrell Jr. is the current WBA regular super middleweight champion, placing him as a potential mandatory for Canelo Alvarez. Now, I believe that Morrell should be last in the very short list of fighters that potentially could fight Canelo, because the likes of the winner between Plant and Benavidez is a way bigger fight, and of course Dimitri Bivol is a much bigger fight at this time. And also, I say that Morrell shouldn't be anywhere near the front of the line for the fight because, according to David Benavidez, he's on record saying that David Morrell passed on their fight and instead opted to face Yerbo, claiming that he had to face his mandatory. Now, I believe David Benavidez when he says this because he hasn't shown me anything other than wanting to fight the best. And his fight being signed and finalized with Caleb Plant further shows that David Benavidez wants all the smoke with the top guys. Now, I believe David Morrell Jr. should take another fight or two before he should be in the ring with someone like Canelo Alvarez. And a fight with anybody in the top 10 at the 168 division, in my opinion, would suffice for David Morrell Jr. right now. Now, if Canelo does come back in May, then I believe the fight that makes the most sense for him is him trying to avenge his loss to Dimitri Bivol. But Bivol already stated, following his win over Zurdo Ramirez, a dominant win, might I add, that he wants to fight for Undisputed against Artur Beterbiev. But unfortunately, it looks like Beterbiev may have to face his mandatory Anthony Yarde before he can face Dimitri Bivol for Undisputed. So it looks like we're probably going to get that fight next between Beterbiev and Yarde. So that could leave Bivol available for a fight in May with Canelo Alvarez, especially since Canelo says he won the first fight, in his opinion. Now there's rumors that the fight could potentially take place at 168, but truthfully, I don't think Bivol should go down to 168. Canelo lost at 175, and if you want that rematch, you got to go back to 175 and see that guy and face that smoke. Now, if for whatever reason the Bivol fight can't be made due to Bivol getting the Undisputed fight with Beterbiev, then Canelo may take a stay a busy fight, come May. But it has to be against a guy who's in the top 10. Somebody who at least going to be a challenge for him. Because come September, there's no way that we as boxing fans, as consumers of the sport, should allow Canelo Alvarez to avoid the winner of Plant versus Benavidez during the month of September. Now, if Plant fights Canelo again, I'm going to favor Canelo again, despite how good Caleb Plant looked against Anthony Durrell. I'd still favor Canelo. I still think Canelo stops him. But if Benavidez were to win, that is a true 50-50 fight in my opinion. And it's one that Canelo can definitely lose and can definitely get stopped by Benavidez. I'm not saying it'll happen. I'm just saying it's a possibility because it's a 50-50 fight. And Benavidez is young and he's strong. But if Canelo were to beat David Benavidez, he's back in the conversation for #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. He just stamps his legendary status, and you can't say nothing negative about Canelo. You might be able to say, oh, he hasn't always fought the best, whatever. But if he were to fight Benavidez, if Benavidez is successful against Plant in early 2023, you got to give Canelo all the credit in the world for that fight, because I sure will if he were to take the Benavidez fight and beat him. Now, I just wanted to drop my thoughts on who Canelo is going to fight next, because there's only so many fights out there for him to take in terms of the big names. And I'm very much looking forward to Canelo getting back in the ring, because he's definitely a big draw in the sport of boxing. Whether you love him or hate him, he's a big name in the sport, and he is the cash cow in boxing, whether people want to admit that or not. I'm definitely looking forward to what's next for him. And I'm definitely going to watch Plant versus Benavidez. And then, whoever wins that fight definitely deserves a Canelo fight. Bivol, if he wants to take the Canelo fight, that would be another great matchup. And, of course, on the outside looking in, if David Morrell, I don't think Canelo would give him the shot. But that's also another potential dangerous fight out there for Canelo. Now, I favor Canelo against David Morrell and Caleb Plant. But, obviously, if he were to fight Bivol, I'm favoring Bivol. And if it's if it's David Benavidez versus Canelo, that's a true 50-50 fight in my opinion. So go ahead and let me know in the comments section who you want to see Canelo fight next. Does Plant or Benavidez give him a challenge? Can either of them beat him? Go ahead and comment, hate, debate, whatever you want to do. We appreciate it all. This has been Reason. Turn up the AC hot takes, and we're out.